guys, welcome back to Sir TV. I'm Rotak Pata, your usual host. So today we're going to be reviewing a book that I'm currently reading. I'm actually done with it. I'm just doing the discussions and the edits. It's an absolute must read. I highly recommend it. I will share in a bit what the name of the book is and why you should have it. And you will actually also hear me as I review it and talk about the lessons that I've learned in it and the principles that I've learned in it, of which I think you might resonate and you might need to hear and actually see what I'm talking about, basically. All right, so today we're reviewing a book called The Legend of the Monk and the Merchant. It's by Terry Felber. Foreword by Dave Ramsey. What caught my eye about it, obviously, was the foreword by Dave Ramsey. I just read the foreword by Dave Ramsey and why this book. And he said he actually has bought the book and continues to buy the book for his team. So if he has a new team member, he buys the book for a new team member so that they align to who he is and how he runs his business, and for those who don't know who Dave Ramsey is one of the personal finance coaches in the US. He's an author to many books that I've also read. I also follow him on social media. I also follow his work to obviously inspire the work that I do. What I also love about Dave Ramsey is how he also uses the Word of God. He's actually Christian. The Word of God in his business, and in the way that he does business. I remember one time there was this lady who was calling. She sounded like she was in trouble, in financial trouble, but she also sounded like she was actually in trouble with, I think, her partner. And what amazed me about that moment was Dave Ramsey and the empathy that he applied on helping that lady. And he actually even said, there's a team that we have in your city that is coming to help you and assist you and support you in whatever that you need. For me, that blew my mind. And it was actually a Christian church, I think, that was actually, he said that we have a team there on ground that is coming to help you. Everything is going to be okay. And, for me, that was, when we do our work and everything that we do in our daily activities and the work that we are doing, we need to be applying what God would want us to do. What are we doing to make sure that we are changing our life in the work that we are doing? And this book is basically also based on that. So it's The Legend of the Monk and the Merchant, 12 Keys to a Successful Wife. It also includes a personal and a small group study at the end, which I'm currently doing. It's blowing my mind. It's making me think about a lot of things. So I'm sharing this book with you because I also think you'll also benefit from it. I am going to also be buying these for my team so that they also get to benefit, because I'm really, really admired how Dave Ramsey and I can understand why he's sharing it with them, because then you get to align your work with your purpose, no matter where you're working. And then the work becomes fulfilling, the work becomes fruitful, with God, and always make sure that, everything that you're doing is in alignment to who you are and what you're meant to be. And who knows that? God does. Okay, so let me get right onto it. So it's basically based on the 12 keys of a successful living. And these 12 keys, it's based on a story, it's basically in Italy, of this son and his grandfather. Basically, it's this boy and his grandfather. He's actually just basically, the grandfather is guiding him on life. The grandfather is actually a successful entrepreneur. They call it the merchant in that. And what is interesting about that is that the grandfather was first used to be a monk, and then he became a merchant afterwards, a merchant, which is a business person. And on this, he's just sharing with the grandson on how you have to be successful, but in alignment to what God has assigned you to do on this earth. He was actually a manufacturer of some coins that they used to use. I call them trading beads. They were actually trading beads that they used to use in Italy a long time ago, that were only used by wealthy people. So he was actually into manufacturing. And what is also interesting, that the grandfather had a mentor for his business. So this mentor also guided him, on basically they had like meetings every 3 years to meet and keep guiding him on how to develop his life, his business, etc., and where he's actually struggling, even within alignment with God's purpose. All right, so let's get into it. And I'm basically going to be sharing the principles one by one and just explain briefly each of them. And the very first principle, is work hard and God will prosper you. When he was sharing this with his grandson, was that the importance of hard work. You might pray, you might be praying so hard about your success and everything, but if you're not putting in the work, nothing will happen. God is a God of excellence, is a God of hard work. I mean, if you read the Bible, even Proverbs everywhere, and in fact, all the disciples, one fact that I just discovered that actually, in fact, all the disciples were actually busy when Jesus called them, to go on this mission. They were busy with something. They were businessmen, these guys, and hard workers. So, this is who God is. God is a God of excellence. He rewards hard work. So what is important is that everything that you do, make sure that you do the work. Work hard and God will prosper you. Okay, and then principle number 2, financial prosperity is often connected to soul prosperity. So what he meant was this, is that you need to understand what your soul is meant to be doing on this earth. So soul prosperity is basically your purpose, and once you know what your purpose is, then you are able to do the work on earth that will prosper your soul, and therefore the financial prosperity follows. How would you know what your soul is supposed to be doing, or what your purpose is to have an intimate relationship with God? You need to be able to sit quietly, read the Bible, ask God which verse you should be looking at right now, and then pray and ask God to communicate with you on what your purpose is. I would also advise that you get a journal and a pen and actually just jot down what he's saying. How do you know this is God? How do you know the voice of God? Is that you have to sit quietly. You'll just know. If you are not able to differentiate your voice or the devil's voice from God's voice, or what you're convincing yourself it's God's voice, is that you should actually focus on the prayer. Focus on praying about it and actually ask God to differentiate between your voice in your head and the devil's voice, or whichever voice it is, and he will make it clearer for you. So the more you connect with him, the more intimate you are with him, the more clearer the voice, and you will know the difference within the voices. There's a voice in your head that will tell you something that you want to hear, and it's not necessarily God. So that's how you will know. So financial prosperity is often connected to soul prosperity. So I'm also sharing this because I think sometimes you might be in a place where you're feeling stuck and you're just wondering, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what to do, especially in this economy. I can imagine the current, economy, not necessarily in Botswana, I'm just on a general, how things are just not as easy for many people. So this is what I would also guide, that probably try this and see how it works, and also read this book. All right, now principle number 3, a man must do whatever he can to provide for his family. Now, this one, he was referring to the male, because remember, he's talking to his grandson. So when he was talking to his grandson, so when he got married, and he said, when I was talking to my mentor, the first thing he said, before you get married, make sure that you are able to do whatever you can to provide for your family. So this is principle number 3, is that even you as a woman, as you want to get married or whatever that you want to do, make sure that you understand the role of the man in your life. A man must do whatever he can to provide his family. All right. Next principle is principle number 4. Trials develop your character, preparing you for increased blessings. Now, here what had happened in the book is that, the grandfather, actually what happened is that, well, remember, he's a manufacturer of trading beads. So his manufacturing warehouse actually went on fire. He was so discouraged. I remember it just blew up on fire, and that was a huge setback for him as a business. I remember how setback he was in it, and he actually had to end up going to his mentor and tell his mentor that I'm giving up. Literally, my hard work has just bent down. And doesn't this happen to most of us, where you've literally worked hard and then maybe the thieves come and just raid your house, or your house burns, or you lose your job, or whatever it could be that could happen, that makes you have a huge setback, or you lose your partner, or you lose your child, whatever it is that is going to set you back literally 20 steps back in your emotional stability, financial stability, or whatever hard work that you've put in, and it just blows up on your face. And so then what happened here, and then I remember the mentor telling the grandfather that, trials just develop your character, preparing you for increased blessings. So what this means is when we're rebuilding that warehouse, we need to make sure that we are very careful and making sure all safety is done, because I think how it blew up, there was actually it was caused by some electrical wiring of it. So that's what happened there. All right. So, and then there's now principle number 5 is take responsibility for the problems that are a result of your own bad decisions. Don't displace the blame. Oh, this one. This one, guys, is it not just easier for you to just pass responsibility to somebody else? Blame somebody else for your problems, even if that person to blame is a huge part of the problem, but where this particular principle is coming from is it's very imperative that you always self-introspect in how did I contribute for me to be here. You see, it's not necessarily always about the person. How did I contribute for me to be here where I am and this problem? So once you take that responsibility, then you are able to face whatever it is now that is causing it. So once you've done that, basically I think what it's saying is stop being a victim. The victim mindset needs to stop. We need to learn to take responsibility of our own problems in life. All right. And then we have principle number 6. See challenges as a stepping stone, as not as obstacles, right? Basically, if you are seeing any challenges, everybody, no matter what, guys, even if you are, with your aligned with God, you have your purpose, you're working hard, everything is going well, you are going to face challenges. Everybody faces challenges, and they're actually meant to build our character, and they're stepping stones to the next level. Most of the time, what I've realized is every single time we have a challenge, it's actually preparing us for the next blessing. And you will actually, when you are a person who self-introspects, because it's very important that we taking responsibility, going back to principle number 5, self-introspect and see, okay, how did I get myself into that trouble? But even when the challenges come, you actually get to realize that, wait a minute, this actually prepared me for this. So it's always a stepping stone as an obstacle. Be meek before God, but bold before men. Sure, this one was so good because it was challenging me in terms of humility, and being meek. And what he was clearing there is like, when we're saying be bold before men, we're not necessarily saying be rude, don't be humble or anything. Like, that's not what it was actually saying here. What he was advising his grandson was that, God is you have to be humble with God. You have to be meek and be very vulnerable with Him about your things and respect Him. And then with men, yes, be humble, but also be bold, be confident, face the world. What it's saying here is like you need to get up and face the world with boldness, but with respect, of course, and with the principles of God. Principle number 8, live debt free and below your means. We spoke about this with Bupelo in our last episode. If you actually can just have a look at it or listen to it, is that, once you're in debt, try by all means not to get yourself into deeper debt. Just find many ways for you to get yourself out of debt and live below your means. If you're actually earning, for lack of, just as an example, 30,000 pula, you don't have to live on a budget of 30,000 pula. You can actually live on a budget of about 20,000 pula, and that 10,000 pula is mainly for investing and saving. You get to live a more fulfilled. And guys, when you have savings, it's such a good feeling. Savings and investments, you just have that feeling that I have a backup. So once you live below your means, then you are able to do whatever that you need to do to create wealth for yourself. Principle number 9. Remember that 12 principles, we're almost done. Number 9, always keep your budget. What you're saying here, remember what happened here as well, is that it's very imperative for you to lead a successful life in any way. You have to be according to budget. How do you draw up a budget? Basically making sure that when you have an income, you know exactly where your money is going, and you're planning for where your money is going, and this is where the money goes. And then principle number 10, loaning money destroys relationships. So here what had happened was I remember the grandfather was telling the grandson that, his brother-in-law, this is the husband to the sister, had come to borrow money because his business was not doing well. So then he started asking the brother-in-law a lot of important questions. So what are you going to do with the money? What happened for you to have lost the money? So the brother-in-law really got agitated and just walked off and like, I'm trying to ask help, you're not trying to help me. Then he was really feeling bad, and he asked his mentor, my brother-in-law came, he was trying to borrow money, and I refused. No, I didn't refuse, sorry. I was asking him questions. I wasn't refusing. I was actually asking him questions, important questions, so that if I borrow him this money, we're not back to where we were, And I remember the mentor saying to him, the fact that he was not able to explain to you, that means then there's irresponsibility of usage of money. And we both know now, they started reflecting about how irresponsible the brother-in-law is. So he actually never helped or loaned the money to the brother-in-law, but now, but one thing he did is that he shared good principles with the brother-in-law about management of money and how to recuperate from financial loss or close off the business. And indeed, the brother-in-law was one of the most successful restaurateurs in Italy at the time, when he actually recovered. So what they're saying is, had he actually borrowed him the money, he wouldn't have helped him, first of all. And secondly, because he wasn't listening, he didn't even want to even hear or take responsibility of why he's where he is, So then he then didn't borrow him, but instead he gave him principles on how to recover, and that's how it actually ended up working. So with loaning money destroys relationships, guys, and I think this is something we really have to look into. If you want to loan your family money, I feel rather give them. If you're gonna give them money, but don't loan them, because when you're giving them, when you're borrowing them, just don't have an expectation of having it back. Because then it ends up, destroying the relationship when you're not able to have that money back. All right. And then principle 11, set aside the first 10% to honor God. This book is really based around the principles of God and how God works, and they really, what was interesting about the merchant, this is the grandfather and the mentor, they kept mentioning how often they went to church. and how their contribution towards church. There was even a part where the church, the priest was making the wealthy guys feel bad about their wealth, but the mentor then advised the grandfather. The merchant was saying to him, this is something that unfortunately challenges a lot of pastors and a lot of leaders, that they don't realize that actually God wants us to prosper. The reason why God has created us in the first place is that He actually wants us to prosper. So for us to prosper and be wealthy, there's nothing wrong with it, for as long as we're doing it ethically and the customer is happy and the customer is well taken care of. God, basically, the good and the service that you are offering is helping the customer to be better. The ethic has to be there, and it's according to God's principles. And what is also important is that you honor God with the 10% of your income, to make sure that you thank Him for the blessings that He has given you for you to prosper. Then you even prosper more. That is principle number 11. And then principle number 12, understand the power of partnership. Basically, this is a broad one in terms of partnership, in who you are it could be your partner. This is who you are getting married to. So important in how it's going to influence you and how you're going to be successful. So if you get married to a partner who doesn't know how to use money well, or a partner that doesn't understand entrepreneurship, or a partner that just doesn't know how to raise, are your values actually aligned for you to prosper? Also, partnerships in business, are your values aligned with the person that you are partnering with? But there's power when everything is aligned, and especially the basics such as values. And also the power of having a mentor. That is also somebody that is partnering with you to make sure that you are a success. So this is what the grandfather was explaining in the book. So guys, this book really changed my perspective about the work that I do. I mean, I've always known that the work that I do is definitely aligned to my purpose, and God always wants us to change people's lives. But it really got me deeper, digging, about, okay, God, is this all you want me to do? How would you want me to do it? The guidance that we need to get from God in the work that we are doing. Every morning nowadays, how I've started my mornings, make sure that I'm with God with it. Read the Bible, hear Him out. What do you want me to do today to change your people's lives in the work that I do? God goes to the extent of telling you which company to call, guys. Like, it's so amazing. So I would advise that you also encourage you to get into the spirit of reading. Reading nourishes your mind. It nourishes your soul. It also just quietens you. Switch off the phone, put the phone away, switch off the TV. Make it a habit to read. So what I do in the morning, I make sure that I read my self-help books in the morning, and in the evening I read fiction, because I love fiction as well. Fiction just makes me dream. How fiction, you have to create the story in your mind. And then the self-help books, these kind of books like 12 Keys to a Successful Living, I read it in the morning after I read my Bible, that and exercising. Then I read this as well. Just a few pages, can be 10 pages. I make it 10 pages, at least minimum 10 pages a day. And then in the evening before I sleep, obviously read the Bible, read my book, and pray and sleep. All right, so may I encourage that you get into the spirit of reading. Teach yourself, start with a small book. I mean, this is a small, if you look at it, it's actually quite, I think I read it within a week. So you can read it in a day, actually, even 2 days. For me, it's a week because I have, kids who always disrupt my schedule in a way. But where I'm coming from is just, teach yourself that. Start with even a smaller book if you're not a person who has been reading and you want to start getting into it. Just start with a small, read, and just keep the momentum up. Right. So guys, I hope this was a helpful podcast for you. And in terms of me analyzing this book, The Legend of the Monk and the Merchant, if you don't find it because this one I took it from father-in-law, my late father-in-law's library. He was a reader, so I took it from his library. And what I could advise, if you don't find this at Exclusive Books, you can ask them to order it for you, and they'll call you once it has arrived. All right, guys, I hope this was a helpful one for you. I wish you all the best and happy new week. Bye for now.